one of them, except this, where Allah warns you that Satan will incite people to give incisions in the ears of the animals and cattle, mainly cattle, and also it will incite people to change the creation of the world, of God. And that warning is given in such strong terms that nobody can miss the message that these people will be punished heavily by God. Now, why only genetic engineering, which deals with the change of the creation of Allah and not any other invention? Because I believe such people will be punished by their own invention, in fact. Genetic engineering is an area where man can lose control of its experimentation, and things may go completely out of hand of the scientists who are trying to change the nature of species by taking a small gene or a character from one species and adding it on to the genes of another species, hoping that that additional gene would create exactly the estimated change. That is a very far cry from reality. What is happening is not what the scientists think would happen. Already there are cases registered in this very country where they transferred a character from a gene of one animal to another animal, but it behaved completely in a different way than they had expected scientifically. So that is what I mean, how the punishment may take the form of Allah's wrath, because if the thing mishaps occur in a wider area, man may, unknowingly, inadvertently invent its own worst enemy in the form of some insects or some species of life which will attack man, and man will not be able to control, defend itself against it. So all these dangers are open. But genetic engineering is not always used to change the creation of Allah. It is also used to preserve the creation of Allah by removing the defects in the genes and characters, by transferring some healthy characters from other genes to a diseased gene, with the result that health is restored. So that practice cannot be referred to as change of the creation of Allah. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. That effort is in favor of preserving the character of what Allah has created. So as such, it cannot be condemned. So that is why I always tell, no need of this, please. It will only create noise now. That is why I tell Ahmadi students, research scholars, to only participate in that healthy pursuit, and should not at all involve in changing the character of species. Okay? Thank you. Are you contemplating to become an engineer?
Yes.
Have you received enough warning?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, please. And somebody should also tell me when there is time for prayer. Okay?
Assalamu alaikum. So my question is about Baba Guru Nanak. I would like to know whether or not he holds any position in Islam, and if he intended to preach Islam.
Again, the news has not reached America. A strange thing indeed, isn't it? Hadhrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed has written so much on Guru Baba Nanak and his robe that he wore and the Holy Quran which was inscribed on it, etc., etc. And yet people here don't seem to have received that news at all. What can we do about it? Tell me. why don't you read one of Mr. Sadhu's books on this subject, which is entitled Sat Bachan. Can you read Urdu?
Not any advanced Urdu.
What?
Not any advanced Urdu, just simple, basic. Like,
But I think it's less than basic.
I guess.
This is what I found here. This reminds us that we must pay more attention to the most essential task of teaching good Urdu to all those who hail from Urdu base, from countries where Urdu is spoken. And those who have English base, if they can also learn Urdu like the people of Urdu speaking countries are learning English, then this exchange would be very advantageous to Ahmadiyya, because then they could be able to read Mr. Sadhu's books directly, and you will be able to translate them with greater authority. So you better start doing it seriously. I told German young girls during my conference session with them to do it, and I was happily surprised. Within 2 months, I started receiving letters written in Urdu by those girls who had no knowledge of ABC of Urdu. But because they had a will to follow and they had enthusiasm to practice what I required of them, so with the grace of Allah, they started reading and writing, and also very excellently, effectively translating my addresses simultaneously. This new generation of Ahmadi girls, and now also some Ahmadi boys, but larger number, more girls are involved in this than boys at present, is a treat to watch. They can understand Urdu so well, English so well, German of course, they speak like their own language, and they can work as translators very fluently and better than the previous generation people do. So this I would require you to do, please.
Okay.
The Ahmadi youth here must be taught Urdu very seriously by their own parents in their respective houses. And if they don't know Urdu, then some arrangement should be made by Khudam al-Anbiya or other organizations like Lajna Naila. And as far as MTA goes, I have already started teaching Urdu to all those who do not know Urdu, directly myself. 11 lessons have already been delivered through MTA, and more will follow when I reach home. And inshallah, I propose to teach Urdu to all people in the world, whichever language they speak, directly without the help of any other language, within a matter of a year or two. And then also, inshallah, we'll have a break in between, and when they know enough Urdu, verbal Urdu, then they will be taught how to read and write, so that by 2 years' time, they can start educating themselves. Because a language can be taught within 2 years to a degree that it becomes an instrument in your hand to further improve your knowledge of that language. But learning a language is a much longer process than 2 years. So my plan is to teach them enough Urdu, verbal Urdu as well as written Urdu, so that within 2 years they are capable of reading ordinary books, and with the help of dictionaries and friends, they advance their knowledge further and become so familiar with the idiom of that language that it comes to them like their own mother tongue. So I advise young Ahmadi boys and girls who are born in America, who are unfortunate in not knowing Urdu, which was their parental language, to start learning it again, once again, so that we resolve the problem of communication with the rest of the world. Right?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've heard that in heaven there are different levels.
Pardon?
I've heard in heaven there are different levels. Is that true?